My name is Kwame Opari. I'm a performing artist. I have spent most of my life studying, cultivating, creating, experimenting with, choreographing, performing, teaching, and learning dance. I've traveled most of the world by way of my career in dance. I have been part of a major Broadway cast for nearly 7 years, and I have traveled extensively and worked extensively as an independent artist. In my travels, I have been face to face with various sundry of people from all sorts and walks of life, and I've also been in many situations, some fascinating and delightful, others not so much. And all of the living that I had done, or thought that I had done, prior to 2007, nothing I'd imagine could have prepared me for the shock that I was to experience when I stepped into a 9th grade classroom at a Baltimore City high school. In 2007, I began working with 9th graders at a Baltimore City school. The ages were between 13 and 16 years old, some 16 and a half. I was hired as a dance instructor to help these students acquire their Maryland State Arts credit, which I was told was mandatory for them in order to graduate. Now, I had been in many classrooms and worked with plenty of young people throughout my career, but that was usually set up through some kind of arts department or arts program that was already at the school. This was my first time in a regular classroom. 3 times a week, 8th period, the last period of the day, for a year. My first day, when I crossed the threshold of this classroom, I was barreled over by what I can describe to you now was nothing short of straight bedlam. And I mean a cacophony of madness. The language, the behavior, the way that they interacted with each other, and just the utter disregard for one another, for themselves, for the adult that was in the classroom, and for the institution of learning. You have to think, to give you a point of reference for those of you who have not been in such an environment, think Lord of the Flies meets Boys in the Hood. Okay? You'll get at least half of that reference, which is all you need to understand the kind of community that was happening inside of these classrooms. And I kept thinking, where are the adults? Where are the adults? Where are the people that are supposed to be guiding these children? And also I thought, I'm supposed to teach these kids dance? And so I sat and I observed, and I observed, and I observed some more. I let them go about doing their thing, and finally I said, okay, I get it now. I understand. These are your classroom rules. And I started to lay them down. Now, I was shocked just as much as they were shocked. They were shocked by what I was going to say, and I was shocked by their response to what I said. First rule, no cursing. This one girl came, what do you mean, Mr. whatever your name is? That's just how some people talk. What do you mean? So, no cursing, no hitting, no throwing of objects, no leaving the classroom without some kind of discussion with me to let me know what's going on, no groping of yourself or other people. And so we started. About a weekend, I had given them some literature to read out loud. You know how you do the thing when you give the book and you pass it around, everybody reads a chapter, or a paragraph. And I was astonished to find that these teenagers were reading on a level beneath that of a 2nd grader. In fact, the first kid that I gave the book to read, he started in, and I said, whoa, stop. Listen, okay, let's put the games aside. Let's stop playing, just read the passage and be serious. And he looked at me and said, I am being serious. He was stumbling through sentences like reading was this extraordinary feat. And so I'm thinking, how can this be? How are they coming to me like this? They have been in school for at least 10 years, some more. And here I am, a dance teacher in the 8th period in the 9th grade, and you're coming to me and you can't read simple things that a 2nd grader could read. So I quickly realized that there was work to be done. And I felt obligated to give these young people at least an opportunity to excel. I was there in the capacity of a dance teacher, but I needed to give them something that was far beyond just 5, 6, 7, 8. And so I discovered that I needed to give them the same thing that I had. I needed to give them experience that life had given me, including my education, my formal education in the arts and in academics, in order to awaken and unlock what I knew to be a sleeping giant of genius. I would need to use both creativity and a relevant cultural history. A relevant cultural history to give them ownership of what they were learning and make what was happening in the classroom matter to them. It's important that you understand that most of these children, these students, these young teenagers, have no idea where they are in the world. Literally. They don't know where they are in the world. They don't know where they came from. They don't know how they got here. They know their city. They know the street that they live on. But they don't know that just to the east is the Atlantic. And on the other side of that Atlantic is their ancestral home. They live their life and know most only about what's in a 5-mile radius of where they live. They know nothing of the world or very little about the world outside of that. And inside of that 5-mile radius, there far too often exists an abundance of poverty and despair. So that's what they see. That's what they see. That's what they see. That is what they're cognizant of as their life and their status as citizens of the world. It's poverty and despair. And then they come into the classroom and they get inundated with talk of people that do not look like them, that have done great things to contribute to the greatness of America and the greatness of the world throughout history. So we began to study these things all through African dance. We studied geography in the world. We studied, we delved into longitude and latitude. We learned history. We learned all of these things, and each facet of knowledge inherently begat the next. And the conversations and the questions and the group discussions began to flourish. It always came back to the dance. It always came back to the movement. And the kinesthetic intelligence that was developing with the dance also went along to develop the other multiple intelligences that they needed to process various forms of information. Through the dance, I discovered that I'm able to teach them to fish and not just give them a fish. Once they learn that, what they catch and what they do with that fish is completely up to them. And I merely become just a facilitator in the middle of this thing, helping guide them to find their history, to find their connection to the world, and find their personal history. The importance is the relevance of culture, specifically when you're dealing with young students of African descent, dealing specifically with African culture and things that will immediately connect to them. In traditional African pedagogy, as I've studied through my travels throughout the Americas, dealing with people that study this, and as well as in Africa, traditional African pedagogy includes dance, music, song, poems, to teach lessons. These children had never been exposed to that. But once I exposed them to it, their minds begin to flourish and wonderful things begin to happen. We can teach them all day about George Washington, but where's the connection? We can teach them and deposit into them historical and cultural irrelevant material, But where's the connection? We need to teach these young students about a history that they had prior to slavery. What they learn in schools is what they know that they can achieve to. So they learn that the history starts of the world and the contributions in the world start with slavery and comes forward. So Black History Month talks about slavery and Martin Luther King, but nothing of what their people contributed to the world and to civilizations long before, and all the things that happened in Africa. So once you begin to teach them that, their minds begin to awaken. You teach them about their marvelous history and you watch what happened. Teach them and tell them, I tell them, that your people have done wonderful things and that you too can do wonderful things. Once you tell them, the moment they realize that their people have done something is the moment they realize that they can do something. And that's when you get them. And once you get them, you got them. You understand? And this doesn't matter. Your color, your background, your size. People say, oh, they're going to listen to you because look at your size. They're scared of you. No. That's not how this is operating. It's what's coming from here. As a teaching artist, and as a teacher you should have, but as a teaching artist, we bring passion, persistence, and that personal attachment to the classroom. I expect excellence of them, and there's nothing that tells me that they cannot excel and be the absolute best at whatever this thing is that I'm teaching them. I have no doubt in my mind that that will happen. So I tell them there's nothing that I see in you that tells me that you cannot achieve excellence. There's nothing that I see in you that tells me that you cannot disrupt the status quo, that you cannot disrupt all of the negative things that people say they expect from you and be triumphant. We have to switch. We have to change things up because right now in education, things aren't working. So once you get them, you got them. They start to talk to you. The conversation starts. They start to give. They start to receive. They start to take ownership of their education, and everything becomes different. Their purview of education and everything that happens as far as the experience in school, it shifts. Math is different now. Science is different now. It's theirs. It becomes theirs. I approach the students with this expectation of excellence, and I shy away from what the educational philosopher Paulo Freire calls the banking method in education, where we're just depositing, hoping to withdraw something at test time, and that never works. And the children aren't exercising their minds. So